Okay, and we're live. Great, and welcome to my channel. This is Sorcerer Tell. I think I'm gonna take that off after all. Anyways, hi. Um, Today we are going to through all the aspects of what we're gonna do with the Never Ending Book Story Club. I'm going to leave a link to the post in CMU where you can get a copy of the Never Ending Story. Don't think I'm allowed to leave the actual link to that here, but I can do this. This is what we did with Liber Null. Let's see, where is the thing? Copy link. There we are. Hey, Black Unigriffin, good to see you. Oh, really? Cool. Yeah, lucid dreams can be like that sometimes. I had a period of time working with the Horde where I feel like I didn't get any sleep. Well, I got sleep, but I'd actually be more woke. I'd actually be more asleep. Um, well, excuse me. I get more rest while I was awake. I felt like I'd be like, oh, I've been asleep all night. I'm exhausted. I've been working all night, and the daytime was where I got my sleep. Hey, Gavin, good to see you. We are going to be starting the book club for the Never Ending Story. We're actually starting next week. This week, we're going to talk about how that's going to go down, what we're going to do. And we're going to talk about Michael Ende, the guy that wrote the Never Ending Story, and why he hated the movie so much so that he actually sued the studio trying to either stop the movie or change the name. And he failed on both of those. But honestly, I haven't done a lot of the research, so we're going to be doing the research. We're going to go to the Wikipedia page, see what we can find out, see what we can learn. Um, on the surface, what I do know about Michael Ende and hating the book, at first I assumed it was because it ended with at the most. I assumed that was because it ended in the middle of the book. The first movie ends in the middle of the book, and you're actually kind of placed in a danger in that place. That's the point. It ends right about where Sebastian becomes endangered for through essentially the ego inflation power sap and delusions of grandeur. And that whole first part of the book is all about how you can be anything you want and everything is that you're the center of everything, and you're the one that names the empress. But then the movie ends. And in the second part of the book, which we obviously haven't gotten to yet, but we're going to get to. This is a long ways in the future, is about the shadow work that it results after that. So my assumption at the time, up until I've done a little bit of research that I've already done, is that hold on. Well, it was that exactly that they only did the first part of the book. And he's like, you can't do that. You're going to leave all these people in limbo. But apparently he's the one that caused them to be left in limbo because, like I said, he sued them. And originally part 2 had been planned to come out right after part 1. And a lot more people would have seen it. It would have responded better. But because of the lawsuits, it took 6 years to bring out part 2. And most people hate part 2. And there was going to be some of that anyways, because there's some serious shadow work going on with part 2, and people don't like real shadow work. And so there was that, but it was important that come out, that hit the iron's press. And instead, his own wanting things to be exactly how he wanted them to be kept part 2 from coming out for 6 years and kept his name off of the entire project. So I don't know. I feel like he succumbed to his own threats, We have a shop in New York in the UK, and it's all magical scents, and they have a life-size dragon from the film in the shop." Oh, cool. Very cool. So, you mean they have Falcor? Yes. We'll be talking a lot about that in the second half of the book. Like I say, the first half of the book is just well, it's not just like the movie, but it's similar enough. Apparently, from what I've read so far, like I said, we're going to be looking into this more as this live goes on. But apparently, his real problem was that it didn't follow the book close enough. And it doesn't. It's true. It's not exactly his vision, but the overlying messages that were in the book still come up in the movie. It's still there. And like I said, I feel like he succumbed to his own needing it to be his vision rather than the shared vision that Fantasia is supposed to be, what the second half explains, is an interesting it's interesting that maybe he didn't make it back from Fantasia himself. Anyways, yeah, full moon. It's coming up tonight. That's pretty cool. Might do some meditation myself after the live, actually. That's it's a very valid point. It's kind of hard to see the full moon from this property though because of the trees, right? I live in the middle of a rainforest. Sorry, I can't seem to quit coughing right now. But that means the trees. There's a lot of them. Jesus. There's a lot of trees and they're very tall. Excuse me, I've got to make this stop. I really need to get an asthma inhaler. I do have need of one, but I've never actually been diagnosed with asthma. So the only inhalers I've ever had are like my brother's. Cool. Yeah, the scripting is a very powerful technique. It wasn't long ago, actually, that someone asked me that if they had trouble meditating, if they could try daydreaming instead. No, it's I do have some breathing complications from asthma, but I was around a bunch of hay today, which didn't help. One of my one of the people I know out here, she's an older lady and she has some horses, so I go every Wednesday to help. You know, bring down hay, fill the hay bags and stuff. And I was exposed to more hay than normal, but I'm often coughing. Yeah, daydreaming is a super powerful technique. They asked me if they could daydream. I was like, that is the perfect place to start. If that's where your meditations take you, just go with it. Hello, my love. Yeah, my asthma is very borderline. Like that's why I've never been actually diagnosed. Well, my brother, he needed the nebulizer and all that stuff when he was a kid. When he became a teenager and introduced him to marijuana, that kind of helped some. Like his asthma mellowed out. But that doesn't work for everybody. It did for my brother to some extent. And mine was just honestly, I don't know. They what was I gonna say? They never really diagnosed me with asthma as a kid, but I watched back all the home videos from when I was a kid, and I clearly can't breathe. Yeah, that's how mine is too. Most of the time, that's not even a thing. Like, but every once in a while, I get to where I have a lot of trouble breathing, and if I have an inhaler, it helps. Like, I've never been so bad that I couldn't breathe, but Mount Kalish. Oh, okay, I see what. Yeah, with an atheist pseudo skeptic. I mean, atheism. I don't. I prefer atheist to monotheist personally. Yeah, yeah. It's fairly familiar with Kaylee. Well, not familiar, but I've heard the name before. Like I knew it was in Tibet. Yeah, I'm a spirit. Well, I guess agnostic isn't quite the right word for what I believe. Spiritual anarchy. Like I believe all kinds of stuff exists. There's all kinds of stuff out there, but none of them were the creator, and none of them have the right to boss me around. It's a balance. People don't like the word cosmic chain reaction, but it's cause and effect. It's balance and harmony. And the whole thing's just kind of hooked together because nothing is an impossibility. So I definitely have a very distinct and strong belief, but I don't believe anybody has the right to boss anyone else around. And this is the real reason I cough so much. I smoke a lot of marijuana and a lot of cigarettes. Having a bit of asthma, the cigarettes don't help, but like I say, the marijuana sometimes does. Really helped my brother for a couple years there. Like, but it could have been just as he got older, his asthma got worse, and it was timed out. Yeah, yeah, and that's kind of how I look at it. I see. I don't know if I don't know if I don't like calling it even the divine, but I see the interconnectedness of all things, and I see its cosmic unity. Right? I don't know there's what word I really want to use here, but that omnipresence of all things, the interconnectedness of all things. You can say it's divine because it's definitely worthy of reverence. It's Well, it's the interconnectedness of all things. It's the all thing. He usually said people who believe in magic cannot have logical debates. Well, that's absurd. That's absurd. That's saying, oh, if you have this, I mean, that doesn't work in a debate setting. That doesn't work in any kind of actual debate setting. You can say, oh, well, because you believe this, your entire thing, that's a logical fallacy. Used a remote control to delete people. That's that's fun. That's an interesting idea. I've joked around about that in real life, tried to like mute people with the mute button on the remote control. Just well, I don't know if I guess as a joke, but the one time I actually did that, I was serious. I was like, "Shut up, dude." Yeah, the whole thing about proof of magic is trouble is they constantly move the goalposts. If someone asks you to prove magic is real, and then you cast a spell, the spell works. They'll be like, "Oh, coincidence, this and that." And, you know, most people, even if you ask them to convince you, they ask you to convince them the magic is real. You cast the spell, the spell works. They will find other reasons to disagree. Even if you send something in their dreams, most people are like, oh, well, that only happened because you said it was going to happen. Well, what do you think magic is, bud? That's how it works. Things happen because they say they're going to happen. The only time it's ever worked the other way around is when I was in an argument with someone about magic, and I still can't believe I did this. This was incredibly it worked though. I reached up and I slapped him on the arm, and then I reached up and I took the pain back from their arm. And I was like, "Did you feel that? Did you not feel it? What do you think that was?" And that's not always gonna work, honestly. I would, but it worked. And they're like, "Okay." I don't know, or maybe they just upset that I slapped them. Maybe I hadn't really won that argument. Maybe there's like, "Oh no, he's getting physical." Yeah, well, parapsychology. There you go. That's one of them things. I mean, it's right on the edge of them people actually catching on, you know? Like I was saying last time about the placebo effect. If someone asks you to prove faith healing is real, you'd be like, placebo effect. But yeah, I just slapped his arm and then reached up and took the pain back out. And looking back on it now, maybe it's like, oh no, this dude's just starting to slap at me. Maybe I better just agree and get out of here. But I don't think so. It's a ring similar to the one you wanted. That's cool. I mean, it's not cool to break any promises, in my opinion. I have an entire episode on that. It's especially important to when you are a sorcerer because the breaking your word affects the power of your word. And like I just said a little while ago, it is magic, but I said it's going to happen, so it happened, right? Obviously there's a lot more to it than that, but there's intent. You know, that whole thing with the I speak and it manifests, the whole abracadabra thing. That's what they're talking about. But that was metaphor. There's a lesson in those words. It's not just about you say that and then whatever you speak manifests. It's about perhaps what some people think it was. Nice. Very cool. But yeah. So Michael Ende. Like I said, I haven't done much of the research just yet. But we're gonna do that together. Wikipedia. We'll start there. It's Michael Ende. I do know that he is a German guy, and I'm spelling his name wrong over and over again here. Ael, that's right. MichaelEndee. German writer. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and okay. Mango ice cream is really good. I've had that before. We're going to go ahead and share screen. I haven't actually even looked, just pulled it up. Michael Andre Helmuth Ende. Okay, good. It's not in German. I was beginning to think it was for a second there. Born in 1920. What? Why does it say November 1929 through 28? Oh, no. Oh, 28th of August 1995. Died on the 28th of August 1995. About a month from now. He wrote The Never-Ending Story, as we all know. There's an animated television one? I didn't know that. Momo. I think that's The Gray Gentleman or The Men in Gray. Huh. Okay, so he's wrote two other books. Momo and Jim Button and Luke the Engine Driver. It's a children's novel. Huh. Well, I might not bother with that one, but Momo might be interesting. Okay, he was born 12th of November. Child of a surrealist painter, Edgar Ende and Louis. I want to get in the chat over here. This is driving me nuts, and I can't see what you guys are saying while I'm doing this. Okay, pop up chat, and then I can go over here and then bring the chat back up. There we are. Oh, yeah, it is. Okay. So he grew up in the artist quarters. Second World War. Oh, and he's German. Okay. Yeah. Okay, I can't really see over top of the chat box. Let's see here. Let's make that smaller. There we are. He was horrified by the 1943 Hamburg bombing. His uncle put on a train back to Munich. I hope he wasn't Hitler Youth or something. Doesn't look like it. German romantic poet, novelist, and Hints to the Night. Okay, that's not anything fashy, at least. 1934, Edgar's Ende studio at number 90 Munich went up in flames, and over 250 paintings and sketches were destroyed, as well as all his paints and etchings. As a prisoner of war by American GIs, but was released soon after at the end of the war. German youth as young as 14 were drafted into the Volksturm and sent to the war against advancing Allied enemies. 3 of Michael Ende's classmates were killed on the first day of combat. Ende was also drafted, but tore up his call-up papers and joined a secret German resistance group. Okay, that's it. That's redeeming. Founded to sabotage the SS, declared intention. So that's cool. He was part of the German resistance group. That's I approve of this. Okay, early career. Expressionist, datist, who he studied and decided he was wanted to be a playwright. Okay, got something interesting. It's starting to get a little boring here. Let's see what else does he do. Jim Button, that's the one they mentioned. And Christian Andersen Award, writing style and things. It is for the child in me and all of us that I tell my stories. Okay, writing could be described as a surreal mixture of reality and fantasy. The reader is often invited to take a more integral role in the story, and the words in his books often mirror our reality, using fantasy to bring light to the problems of an increasingly technological and modern society. Japan. Michael Ende has been fascinated by Japan since his childhood, Japanese legends. In 1959, he wrote a play inspired by Hearn's material, The Peony Lantern, which was written for radio but never broadcast. Okay. That's who we married. Married a second time in 1989 to a Japanese woman named Mariko Sato. Oh, I was hoping it would get into the conflict. So there wasn't much there really that was that interesting. Let's see what, while we're on Wikipedia still, let's see never ending story controversy. think I spelled controversy wrong. No, I spelled it right. Okay. So it's not going to give us anything there. I'm not real good at this research and stuff, I suppose. Oh, the AI is just going to tell us. Okay, you're still on this page, aren't you? Let's get that switched. Bring the chat back. Well, no, I'm just going to go over. Okay, now switch to Public Fury of the 1984 film adaptation, which is called the gigantic melodrama of kitsch, commerce, plush, and plastic. Okay, that's just more AI stuff. True moral of the never-ending story. Why the never-ending story ruined my childhood. Maybe this Looper article might be worth looking at. Let's see what we got here. The Untold Truth, the Never-Ending Story. After being tossed in a dumpster by a group of bullies, based on Michael Ende's classic novel. No, that's not what we want. We don't want to know special things about the movie. All right, well, frankly, it's just not that fascinating. So let's bring the chat box back over here so I can. Here we go. Yeah, I mean, so. Well, let's look at it. Let's see if I can find something about Michael Ende's occult stuff because he was involved in the occult himself. Ende occult. See if we can at least. Okay. We'll start there. I guess we can let the AI answer a question or two. I'm not a big fan of AI, but it is really handy to be able to just ask something a question and ask the computer a question and get an answer. Anyways, esoteric influences. Rudolf Steiner. The Waldorf education principles. Friedrich Weinreb. He started teaching the Jewish Dutch scholar and Kabbalist, adopting a nonlinear layered view of history and biblical myth. Occult Matisse in his work. The Nothing. Yes, this is where I was already aware of The Nothing before I saw this movie as a child, but Kabbalah and Neoplatonism. I thought he was a member of some occult societies. I could have sworn I read something like that already once. I hate to just keep asking the AI, though. That seems dumb. I feel like a silly head. Anyways, religion and romanticism. Let's see what we got here. Let's see. Are you still following me, or are you on the other page still? I don't know how this works. Oh, you're still on that other page. Okay. Yeah, Neoplatonism. This is getting a bit boring. We're probably going to come off of this here in a minute. Let's just see what this bit is here. Oh, it's not going to actually give me the. I mean, I agree with her there. The Never-Ending Story, we're going to be reading it as a spiritual text. That's the whole point of what we're doing here. But anyways, that's enough of that. half of the people left while we were doing that, so obviously it wasn't that interesting. Um, anyways, um, right. So, yeah, I agree. Yeah, passed away from stomach cancer. I remember reading that. Um, yeah, the AI is not reliable. I realize that. It's a pretty bad way to look up stuff, but I don't have the patience. Michael Ende. Let's try. I could have sworn it said he was a order involved in some order. Like some stuff I read the other day. But anyways, yeah. So, like I said, he didn't like the book, like the stuff it just said there about he didn't feel like it eventually that it wasn't close enough to his vision is why he didn't like the movie. And I find that ironic because the book, yes, the first half of the book is about being true to your vision and being true to yourself and finding your inner creativity and finding your inner personal fantasy, right? That's what the whole book's about. That's what naming the Empress is, right? Is putting a name to your fantasy world, putting like putting your mark upon it, sharing your vision, like he is doing with the book, sharing his vision, but then the movie wasn't quite true to his vision. Now, the second half of the book, Bastion actually winds up laying siege to the childlike empress and the city of Fantasia. And all of this is because he starts realizing that if he's the one in control, then he should be able to do whatever he wants. And he goes on a huge ego trip. And then the entire second half of the book is about him trying to escape that, trying to escape the consequences of losing yourself in that power, in losing the understanding that it is not just you, that everyone must name the Empress. Fantasia is made up of everyone's dreams, not just Bastion's. So the fact that the second half of the book, where the shadow work is done, all right, Gavin, you have a good night. Glad you can make it for a bit. Wow, 5:29 a.m. That's what time I usually go to bed. Well, actually, lately I've been going to bed at like 4. 4:30. I stay up and then I go in and I wake Felix up. They come out and smoke a cigarette with me, and we both go back to bed. That's what usually happens, anyways. Okay. So, yeah, the researching on the AI that wasn't that helpful. I really hate to use the AI for anything, anyways. Um, let's see, what else do I have to say about this? Let's just talk about the Neoplatonism for a second, because I have quite a few views on that, and I'm not sure what else to say about Michael Ende, honestly. Actually, let's go over how we're gonna do this. How we're gonna do this. Um, oh, I never put the damn link. Control Z. That's not the link I need. Ah, silly me. Silly man. Okay, copy link. Okay, so what is this? Oh, that's just something telling me I should pin this. Pin message. Okay, so that's the link to the Facebook group where you can get a. That's a link to the public Facebook group where I did a post with a PDF for the never ending story. That should be enough to keep us from getting any kind of copyright trouble, I believe. And I just won't monetize this, so that'll help as well. I mean, I don't monetize the lives anyways. Anyways, so what we're gonna do, and we might make it more than one chapter, but what we're gonna do then is I'm gonna read a chapter, and then we'll come out, and then we will do the live. And before we talk about the chapter, just in case anybody didn't get a chance to read it, or however that works out, maybe you don't want to download the PDF. I've had it downloaded for over a week now. Yeah, oh, about a week. Yeah, a week. That's last time, right? I haven't had any bugs or anything. It seems to be just fine. I went ahead and checked that out. There doesn't seem to be anything wrong with the PDF. So I would like for everybody to read along. We're going to read just the first chapter next time. And then, or we're going to read the first chapter between now and next time. And then at the beginning of the live next time, I'm going to go ahead and paraphrase everything that happened in the chapter. Like we're going to, basically tell this story in my own words. Make sure it's far enough away that I don't get copyright hit myself. But we'll go over we'll go over what happened in that chapter. I'll kind of tell the story of what happened in that chapter, and then I'll go back and hit the parts that I want to talk about the occult connections to that particular chapter of the book. And if there's enough in every chapter, then we'll keep going with just that. I'll read a chapter, paraphrase it, discuss the things, go on to the next chapter. If it turns out there's not quite enough stuff in each chapter, or y'all just start losing patience with this, we might start doing more chapters, more than one chapter at a time. But I'll always let you know how many chapters we're going to read the next time. And then however many we did, I'll paraphrase the story up until that point, and then we'll discuss the occult features of that particular point. Today, like I said, I do want to talk some about Neoplatonism, but that's not really supposed to be the topic for the night. So I'm going to go over some other stuff. I want to talk about the book itself, or not the book, the movie. We're going to talk about the movie tonight for a good portion of the remainder of the night. We've all seen the movie, I believe. Almost everybody's seen the movie, but there are some very obvious occult connections. Before we get to that, I would like to say, oh man, I wanted to fight the morgue as a child, or the morgue, the wolf that comes along with the nothingness, the ravening hunger. Now, obviously, the nothing itself is a huge occult theme. That's something I talk about all the time. Now, there's one difference in my philosophy, is that the nothing is not bad. And the nothing is literally an impossibility. While they are trying to fight the nothing to overcome and save Fantasia. But when I talk about the nothing, what I'm talking about is the impossibility of it, right? And that's why the nothing exists, is because it's literally nothing. So it existing is impossible, and therefore it does, right? But that's not what he's talking about. When he's talking about the nothing in here, he's talking about the existential crisis. He's talking about the complete and total lack of value, of fantasy. He's talking about loss of daydreams. He's talking about losing oneself to the mundane, right? And not keeping your dreams alive. That is what he is talking about. And the morgue, I'm sure I'm saying the name wrong. It's not Mork. It's not like Mork and Mindy. It's not the morgue. The warg, either way, crazy wolf creature that he meets in the cave, and Atreyu, not Bastion. Atreyu meets in the cave and tries to fight, and it keeps talking, telling him about all this abandonment of nothing and how he is able to feed and what this does for the mork. In the book, it's a little bit different, but there's still that bit that he is able to. Oh, I guess y'all would know what I mean by sop. But he's Salusi and sop. Now, okay, now I'm using words that don't mean anything to y'all. Salusi is those who um oh, how do I define Salusi? Salusi is those who take who cause cruelty in, on others for their own benefit. Those who seize the free will of others to benefit for themselves. And sop would be those who then benefit from knowingly benefit from the Salusi. These are essentially horde terms. But either way, he's both because he is the thing going out and helping destroy the things that are in the way of the nothing, but he's also benefiting from it because it makes things easy prey, essentially. And I haven't seen. Last time I saw the movie was like 3 years ago. Apparently, I've seen it 80 million times, so I thought it would be a little easier. But we'll definitely get to it in the book, and then we'll discuss the more in depth part of it. But that's what it is. It's the existential crisis, and the morgue. It is all the things in life that make living hard, that drive one towards the existential crisis. Like having to make your rent. I mean, it's children's literature, so not having to make your rent isn't a good example in comparison to the book. But that's the sort of things having to make your rent. The bully at school that picks on you, the kids that pick on Bastion and throw him in the dumpster. They're the physical manifestation of the morgue. They're the things that make life hard and tear away at your joy and your fantasies and your daydreaming, the things that prevent you from expressing yourself, the things that keep you hidden, right? That's the morgue. That's what he's talking about there. Ooh, I wanted to fight the morgue as a kid. I'm not saying I fully understood all of that when I was 6 or whatever, but man, did I want to fight that thing. I also really wanted to eat the Red Bull and the Last of the Unicorns. Maybe we'll talk about the Last Unicorns at some point. There's some stuff there, but it's not as much. But man, I wanted to eat that Red Bull. I wanted him so bad when I was a kid. I had fantasies about that and the morgue. Anyways, so there's the morgue, and then of course the another obvious occult theme that's made it into the movie. Don't worry, we'll get to the Orin. We will get to the Orin because obviously that's a huge. I mean, it's Ouroboros with an extra with some extra coils, but Marla, Marla, the old ancient turtle that existed before everything, right? I mean, that's a huge totem, the turtle. Slings and arrows, as Hamlet said. Indeed. Yes, Mork is the slings and arrows. But Marla, she is the world. She is the center. She is the turtle. All the things that the turtle is, but she's in dwelling in the swamp of sorrows, right? But and she's dwelling there. I think I've got the word wrong, though, the swamp of sorrows. You know, where Atreus' horse goes into the mud. Oh, the thing that traumatized us all as children, right? But that's where Marla lives. And that's part of what he's showing, right? Is that the world, Sebastian's world, because the Fantasia that we're seeing in many ways is Bastian's world. It's his fantasy world. It's his imagination come to life. But even in his fantasy world, he is sad, he is depressed, he is in the swamp of sorrows, which I'm calling it the wrong thing. I know I am, but I got to call it something. So until we get to that part of the book, I'll just keep calling it the swamp of sorrows. Anyways, this is a symbol of pessimism. This is another symbol of it's the deep sorrow and pain in him that is causing the world to end. Like with Marla, she's like, "Oh, well, at least that would be something," and she doesn't want anything. She's like, "Go away," She's given up, right? And that was a hint, a key, an Easter egg, if you will, to what is going on in Fantasia, why the nothing is coming. And that's why it happened so close to the morgue. That's why those scenes are so close together, is because they're part of the same thing. And that's a really apparent occult marking in the Neverending Story. Now, like I said, we will get to the Orm. We'll definitely get there. Next, I want to talk about the childlike Empress herself, because she represents a few things, and she keeps being given different names in the book. She's the golden-eyed master of dreams, or general of master of dreams, general of wishes. They give her a bunch of different names, and they're all titles kind of names up until Bastion names her, but that's a hint. That's a clue. That is a symbol of what she represents. She is childlike wonder. She is joy. She is Fantasia. That's what it says, that she is Fantasia. She is the thing that gives everyone hope. And there it is, right? She's hope. She is joy. She is happiness. She is whatever it is you need to give a name to in the center of your Fantasia. The part that must be given a name. It must be given, you must know. It's like what I talk about with the escaping the existential crisis, is that you find your meaning, you find your purpose. And that's what she represents. She is the things that you want, the things that you wish. That's why she is the master of wishes and the general of dreams. And I think that's one of the things, because I don't think they ever call her that in the movie. And that could be one area where he's like, well, you didn't even get you're not even getting the points across. Because they just call her the childlike empress in the book until she is given a name. Or in the movie until she is given a name. And honestly, I suddenly can't remember what her name was that he gives her in the book, but it's his mom's name. Right? And there you go, there's a clue to the whole thing, because it's about getting rid of that pain as well, right? Because now he's putting that somewhere. But also, well, like I said, I can't remember what the name is in the movie, but I feel like it's different in the book. In the book, happy full moon, Max. Glad to see you. We were just discussing how the book club is. Well, at this point, we're discussing the movie, but a little while ago, we were just discussing how the book club's going to go this time. I've got a link there, same as before, to a copy of the book in CMU, the Facebook group, for a PDF. I've had it downloaded for a week. Doesn't seem to be any kind of problems. Everything seems to be fine. So at this point, I feel like it's safe for me to provide everyone the link. But either way, if you don't want to click it for one reason or the other, or just don't have time to read the book, or whatever, either way, at the beginning of each week, I'm going to tell you what we're going to read, and it's usually going to be one chapter after the next, which would mean this will take 26 weeks, about 6 months for us to read the whole book. But chapter a week, that's pretty easy. But either way, um, at the beginning of each live, then I'm also going to paraphrase what happened the week before, or what happened in that chapter. So I'm just going to kind of retell the chapter, and then we're going to discuss the different aspects that I saw that relate to the occult in that chapter. And then y'all can bring up ones that you have found or anything like that. Any other questions you have. And if there's enough in each chapter, then we'll keep doing it like that. But if it gets to where we're not getting enough in each chapter to really flesh out a whole live, we might start doing more than one chapter at a time. But I'll let you know beforehand if we decide to do that, and I'll paraphrase either way. So, yeah, we were on the childlike empress. And as I was saying, in the book, the name she is given is Moonchild. And maybe that's translates different in German, because the book is originally written in German. But it I feel like it's a name that was jarring. I feel like, well, like he says, like it said in the Wikipedia that we looked at before I really started sucking with the research, AI has ruined us. It ruined me. I tend to want Google to just answer my questions, and that's not good because it's not always right. But anyways, let's let's gloss over my shame for now. um, so as I was saying, it's a very jarring name. Like it was unexpected, unless you come from a hippie commune, you're not used to a name like Moonchild. And maybe there's some other lesson in that I'm not getting. In fact, there kind of is, because especially if you look at the aspects of the moon, like the tarot card, it is not illusion, but mystery. And sometimes you call it illusion, but it is that vagary, strangeness in between. Just like childhood is a time of open mindedness and exploring and fantasy, right? So maybe that's what she was getting at by naming it Moonchild. But I also think it was intentionally jarring, so that you would think, well, that's not what I'd name her. So you would think about what you would name her, because he likes to have his books kind of interactive. There's an interactive feeling to the never-ending story. It is more, hey Kira, glad you made it. It's more yeah, like I said, it's jarring. You might think, oh, you might pick a different name. And his books, or at least the never ending story, I haven't read Momo, which is the other book apparently. I'm quite curious about that now. Um it has a way of feeling more connected to you. He's quite good at that. That's part of the reason why I say reading the book is essentially an initiatory process. Man, I had a hard time getting that out there. Um, can you guys still hear me? Does the sound really bad tonight? Wonder if I can change that. Because I don't think the microphone's working. I think we're on the old. I think we're on the old microphone. Can I fix that? Customization, trailer, details. No, but that is what happened, isn't it? I'm on the old. I think I'm on the old mic tonight. Good, you can hear me, but I think the sound quality is probably not very good. Right? That didn't do anything. I just tapped the little mic down here, and I think, anyways, doesn't matter as long as you can hear me, and at least none of you seem to be bothered by the sound quality. But yeah, definitely. Unless the light just came off on it, I don't know. That was weird. Anyways, so speaking of that was weird. Um, the thing that happened on a last live on Saturday. If you've seen the short, it I don't know what that was. Like I said, I actually felt it come through. We talked about it a little bit last time, but now I've slowed it down. And despite what I said on the short, I've gotten a better look at it since then. And it didn't come from over here. It actually came from right over there. Like potentially even right out of Joshua Witterson's cauldron there. And then came around here and fluttered around and disappeared right into my third eye. I'm not saying I know what it was, but I definitely felt it around my face. And then it just went like in the video, you can see it disappear into my third eye, but it doesn't really appear over here. I didn't notice it till after I put the short out, but it actually comes from over on my altar. And I think that's I suppose I'm being extremely over hopeful, but the fact that that happened just as I was talking about how maybe if I was able to get my belief in a certain way, essentially that the reason I can't shoot lightning out of my fingertips was because um maybe I needed to believe more. Yeah, we weren't doing a book club. It was on Saturday. I'm sorry to hear that your health has been bad. I have noticed you hadn't been on as much lately. I was hoping you hadn't gotten bored of me bored of us already. Yeah, I don't remember what we were talking about Saturday off the top of my head right now. Suppose I could go look. Oh, it doesn't matter right now. It seems silly that I have to go back and look and see what I talked about last week. But that's part of the beauty of me having a YouTube channel actually is in a way this is a my grimoire, right? Because I can go back myself and look at what I was talking about, look at what I've been up to by simply watching old videos. It's actually quite useful. Book of Shadows or whatever. Awesome. Well, hopefully your health gets better. And I'm real glad I'm real glad to hear that, Max. That you know, you weren't bored of us. I didn't think so. But it's funny how fickle people on the internet can be sometimes. You know, I really enjoy everyone that I've been talking to on this channel on a regular basis. But people are unpredictable. Yeah. Oh, yeah, sure. We can, like I've said many times, this is part of what the channel's for. If you have a question or anything that you want to talk about, we can definitely get to that. Um, but if yeah, if you don't mind, if you're willing to wait till later, that would be great. So, let's see. Where were we? You just talked about the childlike empress, at least in the book. Atreyu. Atreyu is Bastion, right? He is Bastion in the book. And that's part of why, well, we don't want to get to we're just talking about the movie right now. We're not talking about part two of the movie, though we will at some point. Do you know anything about the four-faced cherubim being? I encountered it, never had to read a book. Um, I think I remember the character you're talking about. It's like in the court when she's looking for the greatest warrior, and it's Atreyu that winds up coming forward. Um, I think it gets mentioned in the book too. I may have more to say to about it when we get to that episode, but at the moment, no, not much. So yeah, Atreyu is Bastion's alter ego. Oh, it's from Ezekiel. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there is some kind of four-faced thing in the never-ending story, which is what I thought you were talking about. Like when he in the movie when they're all that when he's at when they're looking for their greatest warrior and Atreyu comes up. I think one of the things is kind of like that. But memory is funny, especially mine. Indeed, that's actually like what tonight's live is about. We're discussing the occult themes. We're going to be doing a book club for the entire book. We're going to be discussing all of it, but tonight we're talking specifically about the occult themes in the movie. And well, about Michael Ende and why he didn't like the movie. We did some research there. I kind of flubbed that. I'm not the bet. I mean, I do have research skills. I am capable of doing better research than that, but it just felt like it was getting pretty boring on there for us to be doing that research here. Anyways, yeah, Dark Crystal. I'm almost tempted to discuss that one at some point. We might at some point just start discussing the cult themes in some movies because actually there's quite a few that are quite interesting. Dark Crystal, I don't know if any of it was intentional, but in the never-ending story, all of these occult themes and everything going on in the movie and the book were intentional. And I think that's part of why Michael Ende hated the movie because a lot of that got filtered out. You know, the it was intentionally in the book, and I don't know if suppose the director might not have been an occultist as well, and it just kind of petered out. But we're gonna jump back to the Swamp of Sorrows. Yeah, there's some stuff in the labyrinth. There's some stuff in the labyrinth. I wouldn't be able to. Neither the labyrinth or the Dark Crystal have a book, as far as I know. But we could discuss those at some point because both have value, and if at least in some ways, it's amazing where we find value in the for in occult traditions, especially those of us that are chaos mages. It's amazing where it can be found. You know, there are lessons to be learned from watching Bugs Bunny, especially about paradigm shifting, right? And the way you can if you change context, you can change someone's reaction. Like when he does the monster's nails, right? Suddenly he just start brushing his hair and all that stuff, and it's a lesson about changing context to change a situation. So there are lessons even in Bugs Bunny. But anyways, I wanted to go back to the Swamp of Sorrows and Marla and that whole scene with Atreyu while we're on Atreyu. Because like I said, Atreyu is Bastion's um I don't want to say higher self, but kind of. He is a representation of Bastion's true nature, which is something so that when he later rebels, like in the second book, when he fights with when he fights with Bastion, or when he fights with Atreyu and gets him and he begins doubting Atreyu, that's part of the lesson. That's part of how you don't aren't able to escape Fantasia is by losing your true nature, forgetting who you are. Bugs Bunny is supposed to be a Leo. Yeah, fair enough. I can see that. Makes sense to me. Okay, so as I was saying, but I'm kind of backtracking again, back to the Swamp of Sorrows. All that I was saying about Marla and the nothing and the Mork, it's all summed up with what happens to Artek, Atreyu's horse, right? He lets it get to him and he sinks down into the bog. And there's a lesson there, right? There's very much a lesson there about letting the hard things get to you, about letting the sad, well, that lesson is about letting the sadness get to you, about letting, about giving up, about how you can't give up. If you're giving up, then you're losing hope. You're losing the Empress. You're losing the chance to name the Empress, to save Fantasia, right? And Atreyu himself makes it through, but his means of transportation, the thing that carries him through quickly, Artex, is gone. And yes, he eventually gets replaced by a dragon. So we get something that is a symbol of vitality and power. And it's Luck Dragon. And we're definitely going to talk about Falcor. But that is the central thing in that moment. The lesson we see with Marla is prefaced with Artek succumbing. And Marla, well, she can't die. It's the only reason she hasn't sank, right? Is because she's Marla. She's older than the swamp. She's too big. She's been adapted to it. Losing the chance to create meaning. Yes, Romstead. Exactly. That's exactly what I mean with that. So, where was I? So then we get again to the morgue. After the scene with Marla, if I'm remembering things in the right order, me and being linear, Um, and the morgue, that's the other one of the other things that can tear you down into the existential crisis, into the nothing, into what when I was going through my own existential crisis, I called the big red empty, the numbness, the giving up, the loss of joy, whatever you want to call that. You have the sadness, which Artek does succumb to, but the morgue, that is letting the hardness itself just beat you down That is letting the things tear at you until well, you wind up in the same place from just losing over and over. The things in life that are hard, that then just sometimes won't let up, tear at you like wolves, the gnashing of teeth. That is the morgue. And these are both things that we have to face. These are both obstacles that must be overcome in order to exist, right? These are things we all face in one form or another. Okay, so obviously we're gonna have to talk about. Oh my gosh, my brain lately and remembering the name of things. The Southern Oracle. The Southern Oracle. I mean, you got the two pillars there with the griffins on top of them, and the tests and the initiations. Yeah, I know, Max. You are. Does seem like you were facing the morgue. The morgue. I don't know how to pronounce the word. I want to see how it's spelled real quick. If I can't remember. Name of the wolf in Neverending Story. Gomork. I knew there was a G there somewhere that I was missing. The Gomork. And its metaphorical form. Oh, when I was a kid, I wanted to fight that thing so bad. But I was one of them kids that, I was a little boy that wanted to fight everything. I was ready to be a warrior. I In a way I tried to face my Gomork when I must have been 6 or 7. No, actually no younger than that. Because I think we might have still been in Michigan. Either way, I became convinced there was a monster under the bed. So of all things, I chose a baseball bat. But as soon as I was convinced there was a monster under the bed, I was having me some monster stew. I'm getting monster stew, and I got me a baseball bat and climbed under the bed, and I was gonna beat the monster to death with the baseball bat and get my mom to cook it for me. So that's just, that's my outlook on things, especially when I was a kid. Yeah, Kira, I had that feeling for a long time. I called it the big red empty. Now, my neurodivergence kind of protected me from it in some ways because I'd forget that I was numb long enough to experience joy at times. And yeah, I just essentially forget that I was depressed for a little bit because I can't keep a hold of anything for very long. And experience some joy. But yeah, I spent a long time, a lot of my mid 20s to mid 30s, about a 10-year period there where I became desperate for meaning, right? And that's kind of, like I said, that's kind of what the book's talking about. I became, but it wasn't either one of those things. It was the over questioning, the trying to find something behind it all and finding there was nothing. Because at the very end of the thing, it is there's no set rules. Nobody wrote anything down that caused everything to be, right? So there is no ultimate meaning. There's nothing. But like I said before, that's what makes it beautiful. That's what we really got to understand is all that really means is it's an open sandbox, right? They call them, I believe that's the gaming term, open sandbox. that means yes, you have things you have to fight. You've got to overcome the Gomorrah. You've got the things that try to stop you from doing what you want to do, and you still, this the swamp's always going to be there, but we have the chance in this place where there is no set meaning to choose meaning, to be meaning, to be intent, to choose the creation that we want to see created in the world. That is what the book is about, is overcoming the the Gomorrah and the swamps, and you know getting Marla back out of the swamp. Because I mean, maybe that's, I don't know. I don't Coming from his background, I don't know if he really saw the turtle as the world. I see the turtle in my background. I'm like, oh, Gichimanatu, the metaphor for the all of the worlds. That's why it's turtles all the way down, because it's a metaphor. It's a shell. It's all balance. Anyways, yeah, it's because I was taught that the turtle is a metaphor, right? Because Gichimanatu doesn't just mean big turtle. It means cosmic energy. It means great soul. It means big sorcerer. It means all kinds of stuff. Both of those words are words that have more than one meaning. But to me, turtle and spirit are the same, right? And so to me, I see the turtle, especially even when I was a kid, because this is how I was raised. I see Marla in the swamps, and I see it as meaning the spirits are sad. The spirits in his daydream, his fantasy world. And I mean, I didn't really get into that in depth to it as the fantasy world part as a kid, but I definitely saw the turtle as spirit, and that meant the spirit was sad. But yeah, so that is how we escape. That's how I escape that feeling, is beginning to understand that I create beauty. I create my own beauty. I have the choice of finding my own value. For me, it was Friedrich Nietzsche helped a lot reading his works. And I mean, he certainly got his issues. I know the last time I talked about him, I said I hate that I wish that he would be wrong. I hate him because he's right. He is about a lot of stuff, but he certainly had his own issues. He was a misogynist and a racist, and definitely a bit of an elitist. But he has some interesting points about the will to power, and which really he stole from Schopenhauer, but he had some very good points about creating artistry and finding your own meaning and value in life, right? And then for me, after I finally got that, well, then I was like, well, what's my most primal thing? And it was hunting. So I got super duck fevered for a couple of years there. That's like all I did. Wound up losing jobs over it because I just leave work to go out into the swamp and hunt ducks. But it's whatever you find. And I'm not saying that in and of itself had meaning, but it gave me a sense of reconnection, right? And I was like, well, first thing I got to do is I got to get reconnected with nature. I got to get back into the pattern. I got to get back into the interacting with the real world. Arthur Schopenhauer? Yes, yes, that's where Nietzsche got the idea of the will to power, was from Schopenhauer. Um, Schopenhauer did certainly had I mean, he was a great philosopher, he was very good. I'm not sure I agree with everything what Schopenhauer had to say either, but definitely fascinating. That's definitely where Nietzsche got the beginnings of his, concept of the will to power. Yeah, like I said, you know, I almost had a bachelor's degree in philosophy. Not that that's much of a degree for philosophy. If I could just do algebra or pre-algebra, I have no idea if I could do algebra because I can't do pre-algebra. My brain, like when I went to college, I had everything for a bachelor's degree except for I had to pass pre-algebra before I could take logic. And because I never I never took logic, I never completed my math requirements and never got my bachelor's degree. But like literally pre-algebra, which I've been trying to pass since the 8th grade, never have. Um, the first time I was told a negative number times a negative number, it really upset my brain. Like it actually was like painful. And I mean, in some ways, I kind of understand it now, but it's too late. At the time, it went, and then my brain, being what it is, just wouldn't do. Wouldn't do. It just won't. It just won't even computate that stuff. It won't give me answers. Like I tried and tried and tried. And one semester, I actually did manage to study and get it in there, and I thought I had it. And the whole class is based on this one test at the end of the end at the end of the thing, because it's basically what's the word? You don't even get a credit for the class. It's a prerequisite class. So it's all just the one test to prove you can do all the stuff. So I walk in there to take the actual test and I sat down, picked up the pencil, went to take the test, and my brain just dumped all that information I learned in the whole semester. Just gone. Boom. Brain's empty. I sat there and stared at the page for a while, stared at the paper for a while, wrote my name on it, sat the pencil down, and walked out. And that's why I don't have a degree. Like I say, a bachelor's degree in philosophy. You got to get higher than that to do anything with it. But at the time, that was my aspiration. I wanted to be a philosophy professor. Anyways, we are way off a subject. Kira asked me something a while ago. I'm just going to go ahead and get to that while I try to remember some more about the movie. Yeah, what was the question? When your craft hone on a small group of who you work with. Oh yeah, so you haven't actually asked me the question yet. Yeah, like I said, we can get to that question because I mean I do have some more stuff to say about the never-ending story and some of the characters, but I'm still ruminating on a bit of it for a moment. So I actually wouldn't mind a bit of a segue for a minute. Okay, so um, I suppose this would be a good time. Oh, there's only four of us in here right now. Y'all that are in here right now, you've heard. So not a good time to plug the channel, I guess. Um, so like I was saying, um, the hell was I just saying? So we're yeah, we'll go over real quick. Like I said, I'm trying. Trying to collect my thoughts on a few things there. So, um, like I said, we're gonna read the next chapter. We're gonna read the next chapter. We're gonna read the first chapter between now and next week. Then I'll paraphrase it and we'll talk about all the occult stuff in it. I don't know what Saturday's live is gonna be. When your deity work narrowed down to 8 or less. Yes, lessons inside the book, because there are very much lessons inside the book of the never-ending story. Like, it's not as apparent in the movie, but hopefully I can pull a lesson out of every chapter, at least enough to discuss. I know I'm almost positive I can do it with the first chapter because I remember the first chapter pretty clearly and going, "Oh wow, hey look at this, hey look at that, wow, what's going on here?" I remember doing that when I first read the book. So I'm pretty sure that first chapter I can definitely make a full live out of that. We're gonna paraphrase the chapter, and then I'll hit on all the different lessons, all the different things that it's trying to say in that one, and then we'll go on to chapter two. And if it's full enough, we'll do that with every single chapter and it'll take us 26 episodes to do the whole thing because there's 26 episodes, and then we'll put some more die on the road, and we'll maybe, well, by then we'll come up with the next book, or we'll try discussing the Dark Crystal, which, oh man, that series they were making on Netflix, that was so good, but it was gonna end. Oh, I'm almost glad, in a way I'm almost glad they canceled it. Okay. So, anyways, when your deity work narrows down to 8 or less. So you're asking about um like working in how to put them all together? Like in a pantheon type setting? I'm still not quite sure what the question is. Um so the Southern Oracle. No, there was a never-ending Dark Crystal. Sorry, I jumped around a bit there. There was a series on Netflix of The Dark Crystal, but it was a prequel, and it was really good, I thought. Oh, in scope, when you're um, I would say that there's certainly a lot of advantage to narrowing down the scope of gods that you work with, because it's like having a closer group of friends, right? When you've only got 2 or 3 friends, you're a lot closer with those friends than you would be if you had 12 friends on average. There's a lot more rapport. There's a lot more time for real individual work. There's time for a deeper level of understanding. And it's the same with gods. Like I know quite a few people that only work with one god. Even people that aren't, because once people start working with one god, I tend to think that gets a little concerning because that's when you can get into the God starting to boss you around some, depending on the god. But I've seen plenty of people that work with only one god and or goddess or whatever, and works out just fine for them. But others, and my point there is that works out just not just fine. It works out really well for those that are able to get on that close and personal of a level with a god without succumbing to that deific feeling, that sense of divinity that does come around come from being around a god. And if you're working with just one and you're getting real close to him all the time, it takes some shadow work to make sure that reverence doesn't become worship. Having more of a personal tier system, yeah, I mean, honestly, the amount of gods I work with on a regular basis at the moment it's almost zero, honestly. But um my dad put my Santissima Muerta, or grandmother, statue back out. His new girlfriend did, I guess. But yeah, like the word tier system bothers me a little bit just because, well, there's like a, not just because of the, like, maybe that could institute hierarchy, but the gods might see it that way, right? And when you're working with a small amount of gods, unless they're in all from the same pantheon and they've got kind of a pecking order amongst themselves already, you're gonna have issues, right? You're gonna have issues if you put one above the others and they're not used to it being that way. There's gonna be complications, it's gonna cause friction, and it might not become too apparent with your stuff except for that there will be friction and it won't resonate as well as it could. Because I've seen people set up stuff like that and it works, but you can almost see the jagged edges. It's been duct taped together essentially. Yeah, approach kind of like polyamory. As long as um if you do have a primary, which I think the idea of a primary is kind of odd, uh in a polyamory situation. But as long as everyone is understanding and accepting of how things work. Yeah, each relationship has unique value. Main, side, and acquaintance vibes. All right. I mean, it can work out like that, especially if each god is aware of its thing. Because not every god wants that constant attention all the time, or even necessarily wants it from you, but is willing to work with you from time to time. And then there's ones that are, know, like you say, acquaintance. I've certainly got a few gods that I've worked with that, yeah, acquaintance. There's very few that I get real close to. Grandmother being one of the few exceptions. Other than that, like, I've worked with Loki quite a few times, and that's an acquaintance vibe for me. Like, don't get me wrong, Loki is a fascinating being, but I don't know how else to say this, but I seem to make Loki kind of nervous. Like, I feel like he thinks he's afraid I'm gonna catch on to something I'm not supposed to know, and it's gonna get him in trouble. Is the feeling. Like, he acts like I would if I was sitting somewhere smoking a joint and then a cops rolled up and I had the joint under my thing, but I'm trying to be cool. That's kind of the vibe I get from Loki. I don't know what the hell that's all about. But Iktomi, who is also works well with Loki, I'm very close with. We've done a lot of work. And he's actually not from like, he's a Cherokee spirit. He's a spider god. But as like a close friend, and then Loki, like I say, is kind of an acquaintance. Grandmother, she's like my grandmother. She's like I have an extra grandmother. I very much think of her that way. So yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying. Each relation, as long as you're authentic and genuine in each relationship, that should be fine. Yes, I remembered that, Max. I have a friend who lives in Sweden who has a very intense relationship with Loki, but they're not a huge fan. They're always mad at him. They're always mad at him, like, because he's very unserious for them. And I like Loki. We work well together the times we have worked. but he always gets that nervous quality, and so I don't know how else to put that, you know? Yeah. Well, Signa, oh, I don't like to say people's names on the live that I haven't had their permission. But anyways, she part of her problem is they are very serious, and it seems like Loki's trying to break that seriousness off of them all the time, get them to be a little less Swedish, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how to put that. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I just kind of use the word gods in a I guess in an animistic sense where like, you know, there's a spirit connected with this and spirit connected with that, and those are gods. That way it's in like that's their role is they do stuff with this particular thing. Yeah, I mean, we absolutely should not bow down to any of the gods. Anything that expects us to bow isn't, as you say, respecting our sovereignty. And definitely with the spirits, the horde, the spirits that really took me in when I started doing spirit work and taught me how to do spirit work. Um, they are very much of that um idea, that concept that we should not be bowing down to anybody. Sovereignty is the most important thing. That's like their biggest thing, right? That's like their whole what they want me to express more than anything. And what they want people to learn and understand is sovereignty. That's exactly it. And with that, the fact that joy is power and we should weave artistry into our lives. But those are all things that help with claiming that sovereignty and getting the fuller self down here. But it's that sovereignty that matters. We want people aware of their, I want to say freedom, but they were never contained. They were never under control. I mean, there's things controlling them. It was like the episode where I was talking about the nature of power. Fair enough. I mean, if you enjoyed the back rub and the kissing, then fair enough. The ver- yeah, I haven't worked much with that, honestly. There's definitely some things in that area that are quite fascinating to me. Um, I feel like I may have had some past lives over there, but they're kind of locked away from me right now. Like, anyways, um, oh yeah, I know that mantra. I don't know how to pronounce Vadrapani. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. The Om itself, that is a very powerful sound. It's true. It's like I was saying before, that's one of them things that there is, belief imparts reality and believing it works helps. But that is one of them things where there really is something there. There's enough momentum and connection to that sound that it has power. Oh, cool. I mean, I've studied some of the Eastern magics to my discredit, not as much as I should have. There is some stuff there that I really want to get into, mostly with the Taoist sorcery is the thing that I'm really curious about because it reflects a lot of the chaos magic principles that were also shown to me in well the way that my grandfather's knowledge passed down to me was presented in a very similar way about there being a paradox, a conflict between the different, well, not paradox. I didn't start using that word to chaos magic, but the conflict, right? Because literally, like when I went on that, I told you all about my manhood quest when I was 14. I was given a pouch during that time. That was an 8-pointed star, and I it was explained to me about how they were opposites in conflict, and that conflict that created the balance that was the shell of Gitchimanatu. See, but then I never hear this stuff anywhere. Like when I hear other people talking about Ojibwe lore and culture, and they talk about this wheel with the colors on it. That I mean, my Uncle Gary has one now. He never said anything about that shit when I was a kid. Now all of a sudden, it's everywhere. It feels I don't know, some cognitive dissonance there, but you know, my I was only exposed to certain there's only certain parts of that culture that carried on all the way to my family. You know, I guess somehow that one got left out on both sides, except for my Uncle Gary's into it now. Maybe he must have gone back to his race. My Uncle Gary's, like I said, that's actually my grandpa's cousin's kid, but he was raised by my mom's side of the family. So I've got this Ojibwe guy on my mom's side. I don't know. I figure he must have went back to the res, and it seems to be some kind of a movement. I'd like to know. I don't know as much as I ought to. Let's see. I'm sorry, I missed what you were saying here. His Vajra became okay. Became Zen. All right. Yeah. For some reason, a lot of people that have powers like psychics and stuff like that either try to hide it or run from it. Like my Mormon grandmother, who I've mentioned before, if she prayed, it happened. Like, but that had nothing to do with the damn religion. You know, I know there are Mormons that have prayed for my death, and I'm still here. And there's all kinds of stuff I see Mormons pray for that didn't happen. But my grandma, that woman prayed, it happened. That's just all there was to it. She had some phenomenal things happen just from her praying. Even a coin she found in her bed once that paid off her whatever bill it was she was praying about. Like she found a rare coin in her bed, but had nothing to do with the religion. It had to do with who she was. Point is, and this was after saving my grandfather because she was doing the laundry. She's putting stuff on a clothespin. And all of a sudden, my grandpa was out on a boat and it crashed. And my grandpa, who back then wasn't afraid of boats, was after this, um, gave up his life jacket for another guy because he figured he could swim. And then just as he was drowning, his hand came out of nowhere, grabbed him, and pulled him up onto shore. My grandma was doing clothes at the house, And at the same moment that the boat crashed, or probably the same moment he was drowning, she suddenly just fell to her knees and stuck her hands up, and they were like, "Oh Lord, save my husband!" And somebody pulled him out. And then after doing that, she prayed to God to, hey, take her powers away. It's like, Grandma, you just used that to save your husband's life. Why would you? But Christianity believes that stuff is wrong and bad. Well, Hecate is a spirit concerned with the crossing over. So if you're having all this interaction with David, she is a crossroads spirit. Hecate, Santissima, Muerta, grandmother, they're all the same being. But when I asked, she said, no, we are all the same. So whatever that means, they're all connected. They're all the same. And they're crossroads beings. So David going back and forth has probably got her attention. She's probably part of why she's drawn to you. Really? Yeah. See, so you've got her attention. You're someone that can move back and forth. So I mean, it makes perfect sense. I wound up interacting with her a lot because of, well, I work with a lot, like as I was most of the gods that I work with regularly at all are mostly trickster gods. Even like with the family history, the family culture that's passed down to me, whatever the hell you want to call it, you know. Um, the primary god is a trickster. His name's Manabozo. He's the son of the North Wind and a mortal woman. It's like it's almost an immaculate conception story because in the myth, the North Wind blows up this lady's skirt and she gets pregnant, and she gives birth to Manabozo. And he's a metaphor for the tribe. He's like a connected consciousness for the tribe because his powers grow or wax and wane depending on his people and how much they believe in him. But he's also a trickster spirit of the north wind. He likes to mess with you. Like Felix would hear me all the time. Whenever the wind blows, I'd be like, "Damn it, bozo!" Well, not anytime the wind blows, but whenever he does something that trying to fish and he blows my bait off course or whatever, I'd be like, "Come on, bozo, knock it off, dude." Because I call him bozo rather than Nana Bozo. But um, I guess I'm constantly interacting with Nana Bozo. I don't really work with him that often. I do sometimes. Like, I don't know, you've got me Kira's got me thinking about how many gods do I interact with on a regular basis. Like lately, Manaboso, Iktomi occasionally, Loki once in a while. Um, Probably be doing more with grandmother now that my dad has taken her idol that I left in the storeroom and putting it up on his shelf, or his new girlfriend has. Took a bunch of my altar stuff that I had left there and put it on the shelf, which is interesting. I mean, I'm not upset about it. It was just down in the storeroom. Yeah, do you go to a lot of the same places on a regular basis? Because that can be significant. And also helpful in making your dream platform and or solidifying it after like if you already have a dream platform and you have other places that you go to on a regular basis, using that as in reference. I want to say anchor. I want to say anchor point. That's not the right word. As a reference point to say where your place is in relation to that is helps add cohesion to your dream platform if you already have one. Even Florida, I went to Florida when I was 18 years old. My cousin Marv uh, talked me into going to Florida with him. We wound up homeless down there in Florida for a while. That crazy sucker. He talked me into walking 2 days march out into the Yucatans. He's native too. Like he actually looks the part. He's got like the red skin and the black hair. And he's got that pretty Ojibwe hair that's black, and when the sun hits it, it has almost an iridescent quality. And then he always kept his hair short. I was like, why? I had that hair. Oh man. But I'd also still have hair if I had that gene. Anyways, he took me 2 days out into the Yucatans, which is swamp. I've lived most of my life in Utah, and yeah, in Utah, I know what to eat in the woods. I know what's edible, what's not, what's good. We're basically in like the edge of the Everglades. March 2 days out there, run out of food. He looks at me and goes, "All right, what do we eat?" And I was like, "You bring me all the way out here, no food." I mean, obviously, I didn't, you know, but oh, I was so frustrated with that. 2 days march back out with nothing. I mean, I tried to catch some fish, but 2 days out in the Yucatan was the weirdest thing. The fish knew what bait was to the point that like I'm putting all kinds of different bait in front of them. They're just completely ignoring it. I was so hungry that I got frustrated and actually had a handgun on me. I pulled the handgun out. And as soon as I pulled that handgun out of the holster, all the fish just 2 days march out into the Yucatans, and they knew what a handgun was. That's Florida. But I wasn't supposed to be there. There was this weird vibe the whole time I was there. There was a few places where we set up in the woods, and I put out. We were trying to keep. I was trying to get food, so I put out snares, and none of my snares ever loaded. I couldn't catch fish the whole time I was there. I'm a really good fisherman. I know how to catch fish. I was raised catching fish. Could not catch a fish. It's Florida. Some of the best fishing in the world. Could not catch a fish. Couldn't snare a rabbit. Couldn't nothing. Yeah, I just didn't belong. I wasn't supposed to go. It's one of them times where you walked outside of your fate, and your luck just kind of shrivels right up. Just enough luck left to get you back out of the situation if you're willing, which I eventually was. Anyways, so um, Falcor, the Luck Dragon. Falcor, the Luck Dragon, is well, he's a dragon, right? And all the things that go on with that. And you'll notice one of the first things about Falcor, he's super happy. He just loves life, man. He's all about it. And that's what I was talking about, that the power of joy, right? You find that inner power, because all of Fantasia is a expression of Bastion, right? All the Fantasia that we see is an expression of Bastion, but this is that inner power, that the magic. Like I say, this book is about an initiation into the occult. There is a whole lesson here, and there's Falcor, and Falcor is the power, right? The Orin, I mean, obviously, the Orin represents authority, but and sovereignty, essentially. But Falcor, he is the chi. He is your actual power, the inner drive, the Kundalini, if you will. I mean, I hate to use that term. We're talking about children's literature here. But there's a weird part where this guy mentioned someone having a, like a Buckman having a Prince Albert. And that really threw me off when I get to that part of the book. I'm like, why? And it didn't even matter. It's just all these creatures walking by. And one of them's a deer man with a Prince Albert. And I'm like, unnecessary detail for a kid's book. So like, I wonder if there's some kind of something he was trying to say with that, but I don't know. I think he just, I don't know, Germans, right? Oh no, I said something about Sweden's and Swedish people and Germans. I have no problem with either group of people. In all actuality, everybody's got their quirks. I have both German and Swedish in me. Actually, I've got all kinds of stuff in me. Anyways, um, what was that? Where was I? Oh yes, Falcor. He is he is luck, right? He is, and that's what magic is weaving your luck, writing your luck, weaving your fate. And Atreyu is literally writing luck, but luck is full of joy and optimism and belief imparts reality, right? He is always looking for the wisdom and the answer. In the book, there's a lot more to Falcor. So we're gonna be talking about that more because tonight we're talking about the movie. Yes, it is good to be a mutt. Genetic diversity is important. But also, that luck, that power, is what carries him into the initiatory process. The Southern Oracle. Clearly, the Southern Oracle is an important part of all this. The Southern Oracle. Let me make sure I have this right. I've been a while since I've seen the movie. Look that up real quick too. The tests of the Southern Oracle in Neverending Story. Through the Sphinx Gate. Self doubt, the magic mirror gate that expresses true character. Facing the invisible voice. Well, that's not exactly right. Okay, that's the book. Story movie. Oh, yeah, that's right. In the movie, there's only 2. Okay. And that's what we're talking about tonight is the movie. So, we're gonna talk about that particular aspect of it, which obviously they're taking a bit out there. And now I'm beginning to realize why Michael Ende was like, "Yeah, it's not even enough. You're not actually doing the initiation process when you, take out." I mean, he took out all they did, they took out a whole oracle. Oh, yeah, I absolutely love the movie too. I absolutely love the movie, and that's how I got confused because I was thinking there was 3, and I was like, "Right." Yeah, in the movie, there's only 2, and it's, the first one is essentially confidence, right? What did I do? Blink that out. Why am I going bothering to come back and look at it again? Yeah, who's, the shoot lethal lasers beams from their eyes at anyone whose heart is unworthy or full of self-doubt. Yes, that's right. That's right. And then the magic mirror gate just means you see a reflection of your true self, your true character, which it's not exactly that in the book. So yeah, I'm getting to beginning to understand. They Disneyfied the hell out of it, and that's why Michael Ende, the guy that wrote the book, was so pissed off, and why he actually had his name removed and caused it to take 6 years for part two to come out because there's a part two of the movie, just like the book. Um, when you get to the part where Bastion renames the childlike empress, that's only half the book. That's the first half of the initiation process. That's the showing you the power of the Orin, of the self, the power of fantasy, the power of daydreaming, right? But then you have to come back out. You have to escape Fantasia. And that's the second half of the book is him learning to exist within regular reality. I mean, that's the metaphor is learning to be able to have that knowledge and that information and still live, still have a life. You know, it's like the I guess that's the Zen Buddhist saying about before enlightenment, you lift wood, lifting wood and chopping water. No, I have it all fucked up. Uh, carrying wood, carrying water, and chopping wood. Then after enlightenment, it is carrying water and chopping wood. There's something else in between. I have really messed that one up. Anyways, there is the mundane material world that we start with, right? Before the magical process. And then there is that rise. There's even a meme like that, but you start with one understanding of the mundane world, of this everyday world. And then you have this rise in an understanding and enlightenment. And then on the meme, it goes back down to the graph the other side and puts you back right back in the same place. But that's not exactly accurate. Like I say before about cycles, these types of after enlightenment, carry water, chop wood. Before enlightenment, carry water, chop wood. After enlightenment, carry water, chop wood. That's exactly it. That's where, thank you. That's exactly what the book is. It's showing you that this is where I am. Then you go all the way up here, but then you have to get back down to chopping wood. But the thing is, this is what I was saying, it's not really a circle or a bell curve, right? It's a spiral. So now, yeah, you're back to chopping wood and carrying water, but there is more context of what the wood and the water are. They're still wood and water. You still got to chop them and carry them. in order to make soup, right? Chop the wood, take it up there, light it on fire, have the cauldron with the water in it, put the rest of your stuff in it, you know? You still need these things. You still need to be able to do these things even after enlightenment. You can't let that moment of enlightenment, you can't let that moment of understanding rip reality away from you. And that is the danger that Bastion faces. That is the danger that we all face in that place. That full gnosis. We have to be able to come back. Once we've discovered that, yeah, on magic, I really can change the world. I really can alter things. I really can do things. We still need to be we still need grounding. We still have to be grounded. We still have to understand our nature and not allow that moment of being in the ether to remove what is actually us. Now, that's why Bastion loses his face. Can't remember if he does that in the book. It's been a couple years since I've read the book. I've only read it once. But in part two, part two, when it finally comes out, I haven't seen the movie in forever either. I need to watch part two again. I also found out what his actual website say about his mystical explorations. Oh, awesome. Thank you, love. Let's see. Let's go over there and check that out. I mean, I could very easily be wrong about what he's trying to say. Michael Ende and mystical things. And Stuttgart, Michael Ende was attracted to art and literature, then to the anthroposophical focus of the Waldorf school. He shared his parents' interest, but as Peter mentions in his biography, Michael Ende, der Anfang der Geschichte, I don't speak German, beginning of the story, his worldview wasn't shaped by Steiner's anthroposophy. I just said it a second ago. Anthroposophy alone. Honestly, don't know much about that. I might have to check out what. Like, it sounded familiar. Inspired by his father's books on the subject, Ende soon came into contact with mystical writings. During its first quarter of the 20th century, Munich was a capital of mysticism, home to numerous proponents of mystical beliefs, including Alfred Schuller, Karl Bolshevsky, and Ludwig Klages. The idea of exploring eschatological questions through art appealed to the young pupil. He became an avid reader of the mystical text. Throughout his life, Michael Ende was fascinated by philosophical theories centered on mystical ideas. Edgar Ende's son looked for truth in the writings of other sages and mystics, including Christian Rosenkreutz, Chemical Wedding, Aleister Crowley. Oh, Christian Rosenkreutz, Chemical Wedding, Aleister Crowley's Manifestos, Indian and Egyptian belief systems, Zen, Kabbalah, Swedenborgism. They didn't say what Swedenborgism. Yeah, I have never know how to pronounce his name. Eliphas Levi, Soren Kierkegaard. Well, Soren Kierkegaard was an existentialist. He's not, well, whatever. And Frederick Weinreb. He could never have, that'd be Weinreb. I don't actually speak German, but he could never have become anyone's disciple. The closed perspective on the world and the afterlife would have stifled him. For Michael, there was something else that took precedence, and that something was art. Yes. As far as Ende could tell, none of the philosophical systems he came across offered a satisfactory explanation as to the meaning and purpose of art, nor provided a template as to what art should be. Steinberg's concept of art, he once wrote, was the weakest point in his philosophy. Steinberg believed he could use art to convey truth, but he was mistaken, not only because he didn't have the artistic talent for it, but also because his understanding of what art could and should be was misguided. It is often the way with those who are first and foremost thinkers. Saying there's something else here. Anyways, so there we go. There was a little more on his philosophy. That will be something for us to be aware of going forward. I'm gonna look up anthroposophy. Just Google it real quick. Spiritual philosophy and movement founded by Rudolf Steiner that teaches the human mind can access an objective spiritual world through inner development. I feel like I have read some stuff like this before. Key concepts include spiritual self knowledge, cosmic evolution, and a threefold view of humans as body, soul, and spirit. All right, that's interesting. We'll look into that a bit more as the series continues because obviously it's one of the things that informs the writer. So that'll help us get more in actually into his head. And then what's this? What do we got here, love? Michael Ende's The Never-Ending Story was first published in 1979 and has long been treated by fringe circles as more than a fantasy novel. A handful of researchers claim the book contains embedded sigils and acrostics that point to a consciousness architecture blueprint supposedly transmitted from an unknown source. The most cited version of this transmission is attributed to the mid 20th century German occultist named Hermann Schneider, who allegedly passed a set of psychic schematics to Ende during a brief 1974 correspondence. Schneider's papers, now housed in the private archives of the Göttingen Occult Society, list a series of lists that match the narrative's recurring motifs. No verifiable documentation exists beyond these letters, and mainstream scholars regard the claims as speculative. The theory persists mainly with psionic theory forums, where readers analyze each chapter for hidden coordinates and supposedly map the plasma field of the collective consciousness. Well, I knew there was something there. Apparently, I'm not the only one that read it and went, wait a minute. Yes, the link here will take you to CMU and the post itself. Like the one I have pinned here will take you to a PDF which I have downloaded and have had for a week with no ill effects that I'm aware of. Now, bear in mind, I am not the master end all be all of cybersecurity, but it seems to be fine. It's just a PDF. If electricity can build up and the effects get more intense, why do we assume a different position with magic energy or life energy? I was just wondering this because you can put an infinite amount of energy within an object and the effects get stronger. Well, that's a hypothetical scenario, but it's kind of hard to write out what I mean. Well, my cousin Marv, the one I've mentioned several times, and including on this live, he put too much energy into a geode and it blew up, like just cracked in half. So now the nation, like I don't know, maybe I'm misunderstanding the question. What I'm saying is you can put too much energy into a crystal and have pure effect and have an actual physical effect on it. I've seen it happen with crystals before too, like the crack inside. Never seen one blow up, but I have seen one crack crack inside more than once. And like we do a lot of work where we're adding more and more energy to a spell over time. Huh. So what I was gonna say is I do have a PDF, like the one I've shared, and everyone's welcome to download it and check it out for themselves, and read along. But I'm gonna watch for those and take screenshots of them so we can share 'em. We can share those on the live when we're talking about them. Like I said, I can't. I'm pretty sure I can't just read the book to everybody every week or actually share the PDF directly here. Uh, but you know, I think we do have a bit of a loophole there. Anyways, I'll be right back. It is time for the first intermission of the night. Okay, I'm back. The heck was that? Oh. Indeed. Energy building up, the effects get stronger and stronger. Yeah, but we do that. That's like the law of repetition. Every time a pattern is repeated, the momentum of its cycle increases. But eventually it gets too much. Like I said, I've seen many a crystal crack because they had absorbed too much energy. I've seen it happen more than once. That's what happened, like not from repetition, but too much energy into the gourd is what burnt a hole in that gourd when I was trying to catch that water elemental, because they're a much denser energy because they're etheric rather than more of an astral energy form, and it's designed for catching like ghosts, like human ghosts and gourd traps. So for a human ghost, they can be held inside the gourd because of how much actual energy is there. But when it was a water elemental, an actual water spirit from the etheric, the area in between in it from the veil, whatever we want to call that, that was too much energy and it literally burnt a hole in the side of the gourd. So yeah, the same rules very much apply. If you keep adding energy to something, it will affect it. But with electricity, that energy has been removed. Like, when you're electrifying something, once you stop adding electrons, unless it's something that's designed to contain it, it's just gone again. In internal alchemy, that's what they do. Yeah. So, the oracles. Like I said, we're talking about the ones in the movie. That's a fascinating thing that X post that Felix brought up. Thank you very much for that, my love. I'm going to be looking some more to find stuff about that. I really should have already, but I didn't. So we started research here, and then I found that I'm just wasn't the most exciting thing to do on a video. I was getting bored of it already. Like, oh, I got to be talking on there. Yeah, most changes in some way are seen as destruction. I mean, or can be seen as destruction in some way. All changes, everything, something changes. There's some destruction involved in destroying what was to make what will be, or what is to to change what was into what. I was trying to make some philosophical point there, but it's tying my tongue too much. I can't quite seem to say it. Anyways, yeah, the Southern Oracles. So the ones in the movie, and I think this is a big part of the reason why he is so pissed off. This right here is where I really start to get it. And I remember hitting this in the book and thinking this is different than the movie. And I haven't actually watched the movie at all since I read the book. So I think we're gonna do that as part of this. Yeah, we're gonna we talk about the book movie today. And we're gonna read the whole book. Then we'll watch the movie, talk about the movie again, and then we'll watch part two. We will not speak of part three. Part three is an abomination, and this is the only time I'm ever going to even deny its existence on the live. It will not be spoken of again. Okay, that's that about that. Um, internal alchemy is a very interesting process. Um, I know more about traditional alchemy than I do the internal alchemy. Like I've studied it some, I've read some books on it, adapt adapted a few things from it, but I I'm much more drawn to traditional alchemy, which the internal alchemy is part of that because you have to be going through these processes yourself in order to make some of the processes involved in some of the actual stuff that goes on in alchemy. You have to make yourself into the person that has the right context to perform the operation. Anyways, so like I say, I do understand now. I'm beginning to see even better why it is he was so mad that he didn't even care about there being a part two. He's like, no, you've especially this bit with the oracles. This was an important bit. In the books, they are different. Where'd that go? That's not the one. What did I do? X that out. different oracle tests. Just to make sure I'm not misquoting. I mean, we'll get to them in the series. Okay, the magic mirror. Oh, that's right. You have to let your desire pass. Oh, no. We'll get to it. I'm not going to trust that that's saying the right thing. Either way, they are different things. They are completely different things in the movie. I mean, not completely different. In the book, in the movie, it's your classic trope: have confidence, know thyself, right? And even there, we're still dealing with classic occult themes, right? Fake it till you make it, belief imparts reality, whatever you want to call it. There's the first test: believing in oneself, which also happened, which is also one of the oracles in what one of the ones in the book. And then in the movie, it's simply facing yourself. This is the first sign of the shadow work that is to come, right? Most men run away screaming. Remember the little guy saying that, like the little gnome people when he gets there, and there's the two little gnomes that are a couple, and they just constantly bicker, and the little gnomes all laughing about how the people can't handle it. But this is a powerful moment, and it is an important part of becoming a sorcerer. The initiation process to being able to weave one's own will is to do that shadow work. I literally talk about it as like looking in the mirror, just like this is the mirror gate, and talking to yourself, you know, getting to know oneself, to truly understand oneself, one's position within the pattern, so that you can weave what you will, right? Is right there. That's it. Facing yourself, knowing who you are, knowing what you are, coming to understand your context within the cosmic creation. That's yeah, that's what that particular lesson is about with the second one. And for the movie, that's it. There is no third oracle. That's when the nothing comes. Tears everything apart, right? Pretty sure that's exactly how it happens next. Like I said, it's been a while since I watched the movie. So we're going this first time about talking about the movie, just kind of going in with on memory. But like I said, after we do the whole series, we're gonna watch the movie again, talk about it, and then we'll watch part two and talk about it. And that's all the movies there are. So yeah, and that is absolutely true. Most people really can't handle that. Most people can't stand being alone with their own thoughts. Most people really do not self-reflect. This is one of the things that makes me as misanthropic as I am, because I'm very gregarious. I'm friendly. I'm affable. You know, but I'm also at heart a bit of a misanthrope. I'm not a big fan of humanity, and that's why I don't think most people are literally aren't well. I think a lot of people literally aren't fully self-aware, and it's by choice because people choose not to self-reflect. And without self-reflection, you're not truly self-aware. You know, it's by choice. So, I mean, make of that what you will, but if one does not self-reflect, one is not truly self-aware. And a lot of people intentionally don't self-reflect. I've met people in my life, however, that seem completely incapable of self-reflection. Like hypocrites that seem completely unaware of their own hypocrisy. One of the first examples I can think of is a woman I used to know who was complaining to me about the way some girls were dressed while she's standing there in a negligee, telling me these things. And I am not a slut shamer. And to negligee, walk around in negligees, tube tops, French bikinis, I don't care. Not make me think any more or less of you. I mean, if I like what I see, it might make me think a little more of you, but it's certainly not going to make me think less of you, even if it isn't to my tastes. But um, to see someone scantily clad complaining about women being scantily clad, it just kind of really put some things into place for me. You know what I mean? As far as humanity, humans, nothing about men or women, because I mean, I think on average women are more emotionally mature than men. But we're not going to get into that. We're not going to get into my misandry. We're talking about my misanthropy. um, yeah. Point there is this is a serious test when we go up to the oh, it does. It very much does. I've known some very emotionally immature women, but I've known a lot of emotionally immature guys. And that has less to do with biology than it has to do with men don't have to be. In our society right now, men don't have to develop emotional maturity. They're allowed to just stunt their emotions and pretend they don't feel, and that leads to emotional immaturity. They are. They're being seen. Yes, incels are a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Yeah. Let's see here. Yeah. If you are seeking enlightenment, internal alchemy, to change oneself, absolutely, isolating oneself helps with that. A degree of isolation or change of lifestyles. Yeah. Well, I mean, just changing your lifestyle dramatically will also help. If you're trying to change anything about the self, like changing your environment helps dramatically because now anytime you're in a new environment, your psychology wants you to adapt. I mean, just walking into another room. Felix was talking about this earlier today. You walk into another room, and a lot of the short-term memory of where you just were gets dumped because your mind's adapting to the new environment of simply having walked into another room. So, one of the easiest ways to shed from the past is to leave the past, leave the context of the past, go somewhere that has new context, a new environment. You know, go to a new town for 3 months. and shed the old way and become the new thing there. And yeah, isolation helps as well. But if you could be somewhere where you're also it's just somewhat also exposed to a completely different culture, even like, not just the new town, but like go to Prague for 3 months or wherever, somewhere foreign to you, like more foreign than just going to Europe would probably be better because there's still a lot of similarities between American and European culture. Yeah, that's exactly it though, March of Dimes with the misandry. I wasn't gonna get into this tonight, but this is my problem. Men think there needs to be a freaking pecking order. This is why I mean I have some male friends. I'm not saying I don't like have any male friends, but with men, there's a jockeying around. There's this we think we ha the men think there has to be like this little hierarchy crap. And I can be very competitive. I enjoy competing. I enjoy when I have friends or any friends that like to hit each other with sticks and stuff like that. I enjoy that kind of stuff. But there doesn't need to be we don't need to check our status against each other constantly. We don't need to uh, you know the yeah, the metaphor, we don't need to constantly be measuring our dicks when us guys are hanging out. And you don't need to get and most guys get weird if you talk about anything that matters, you know, on a personal level. You know, a lot of even you're close, even when you have male friends, you're supposed to be close. If you want to talk about something that makes you feel, suddenly they're all weird, and it's because they've been taught they're not supposed to deal with these things. Men can't be more like women because men are taught that they only matter for what they can do, but are also taught that they're the most important at the same time. It's this bizarre. I mean, I have a lot to say about this. Actually, I've been thinking about doing like an episode trying to explain the incels a little bit, you know? Because I mean, I present as male. I've there's a lot of odd context in that, but for the most part, I considered myself cishet before I met Felix. You know, like I don't know. I have a twin sister that I absorbed. That's always a thing that's been there. Like I'm a chimera. I have a twin. We talked about that before. Like how I had absorbed my twin. That was my sister, and I feel like I have probably part of her nervous system because of some things that we're not going to get into. But and the things men do and say themselves are what make me a bit of a misandrist. And it's not just the way that they'll talk about women when men are when they're not around. You know, that is part of it, but it's also just the constant jockeying for hierarchy, and that doesn't need to be there. This is, I mean, they're the competition. There's nothing wrong with that. I aim to confuse. Well, you did a very good job with me, love. I've never been more pleasantly confused in my life. I mean, I dated a guy in Job Corps for a little while. It didn't really go anywhere. But because of how I feel about men, any interest I've ever had, they're like, dudes suck. And I know enough gay dudes to know they're really not much better. Not when it comes to that submissive dominant thing, right? And that's how men are raised. It's like, well, you have to either be submissive or dominant in every situation. Yeah, it was on what they do, but also on that, you know, they have to prove I'm the guy that slept with the most women. I'm the guy that can do this the most. And then pretty much anything you do, all the guys have to be like, "Oh, I'm the best at it." And, ugh, no, I don't need all the egos. I just don't need it. And there are guys that aren't like that. I mean, we're very off of subject here. Um, I do sometimes consider addressing the male loneliness epidemic, though, because these are the things that are the problem. And I feel like maybe if just somebody said, hey guys, and obviously it's gonna have to be a dude, 'cause that's the only thing they'll listen to. Like, hey guys, you're acting counter to your own best interest with the way you behave, you know. And I don't know. Anyways, way off subject. We're also almost to the 3 hour mark. We're at 2:41. Yeah, the incels. That's anyways, like I say, we're off of that. Okay, Southern Oracle. Then he names the nothing comes, breaks it all apart, and Bastion. I feel like I'm missing. I mean, I'm missing huge parts of the movie. You know, Atreyu goes to all these places, fights the Gamorreek. That is when the nothing comes, right? Is right? Is right? It's just as he's talking to the last Oracle. Yeah, and then they fall apart, and Bastions look at, and they get lost from each other. Mark, Falcor, and Atreyu. God damn, it's been a few years since I've seen this movie. How many times I watched it as a kid? You think I wouldn't have any trouble keeping the chronology straight? But anyways, we get to the point where Bastion finally gets out the courage to yell out the name, and he said, I forget what he. I think he named her something else in the movie. Let me go ahead and Google that real quick too, since I've been going on to Google tonight. Never ending story, name of mother. Oh, yeah, you can't make out what he's saying, which actually holds with what my interpretation of what saying, that he gives them the name Moonchild because that's an odd name for a mom, right? And he wants you to think, oh well, I put my own name there. In the movie, that's right, you can't make out what she's saying. I remember actually rewinding him what he's saying. I've actually rewinded it and played it back when I was a kid several times, trying to figure out what he was saying, but you can't hear it very well. Pretty sure I remember doing that, like rewinding it, and playing it, rewinding it, and playing it. Yeah, trying to figure out what he was yelling out the window. But there you go. He names the castle, or he names Fantasia, and then he rebuilds the whole thing, and everything comes back. And that's where the movie ends, essentially, except for he gets to then take that power back into the real life, back into the real world. And he rides Falcor and scares them kids that throw him into the dumpster so that they hide in the dumpster, right? And that's returning with your power after finding this moment. after claiming that peace, that facing the self, that becoming Atreyu. I mean, he doesn't exactly become Atreyu because Atreyu continues in the story, but this is the part where he becomes part of the story, and Atreyu simply becomes another character. Because before that, when you're reading a book, you kind of see yourself as the main character, and that's what Atreyu is doing. Atreyu is at first kind of Bastion's avatar in the book, kind of his just for winterships, right? But then when he comes there himself, now he's interacting with Atreyu. We're going to talk. We'll be getting to that eventually in the books because, like I said, that's only the first half of the book, but that's where the movie ends, and that's kind of that says a lot, right, about American value. That this is what happened to this book when it was Americanized. I mean, they do eventually come out with part two, but it's 6 years later. And I suppose they originally intended to come out with it the next year or whenever, still strike while the iron was hot. But they didn't. They left us in that limbo state. Because this is where the danger is found for Bastion in the books, is in this moment. This is the moment Bastion is placed into danger, is by that limited understanding, that finding of the light on that height of enlightenment. Now he's got to go back down and chop wood. Now still has to be able to chop wood and carry water. But they left us up here. They left us on the hill. And you know, that's a perfect epitome for what's going on in America and the political system of today. You have all these people that think their fantasy trumps reality, right? Whatever they want to believe Trump is doing is what Trump is doing. Whatever they want to think is going on with this or that is what's happening. This is exactly what Friedrich Nietzsche warned about: political nihilism. The idea that value and truth no longer matters in politics, and no longer matters. It's all just fantasy. But that's not fantasy. That's real life. And people just use this to deny whatever it is they don't want to believe and believe whatever it is they want to believe. You remember when they all believed that Trump was secretly wearing a Biden suit, basically, and Trump was still really president? They had all these crazy different theories with the QAnon, especially with the QAnon while Biden was president. And Trump secretly is still in control of the military, or Trump's secretly this and that, and all these things that they just chose to believe. They gave themselves a lie and chose to believe it. That's the danger that Bastion is in right now. At the end of the movie, that's where he's at. He's in that moment of truth is completely meaningless, and I can create whatever I want. I get to name reality. I get to name the Empress, right? And the Empress is kind of like the tarot card of the Empress in a lot of ways, I think. There's certainly some connection there. And we're going to be exploring that a lot in later episodes. I want to think on it some more, right? Before I say a whole lot about that, I want to really get the groove of what I mean by that and dwell on it some before we get back to it. So we're going to come back to that as the series continues. but I'm surprised it wasn't the first thing I thought of. In fact, I never even thought about the Empress Tarot card in relation to the childlike Empress or the golden-eyed master of dreams until just now. And it should have been one of the first things that hit me. You would think, but it wasn't. Well, we got 10 more minutes to go. At this point, I am going to go ahead and open us up to thoughts, questions, or concerns. I'd like to thank all of you that made it this far into the episode. Stuck with me the whole 3 hours once again. Been fun having y'all here. Um, like I say, I'm actually quite excited about this particular book that we're going to be doing. At the end of that one, at the end of this one, and the movies. Oh, you're more than welcome, Black Unigriffin. I am. Thank you for being here. You know, this wouldn't be anywhere near as much fun without you. Yeah. What was I saying? I kind of lost my train of thought there. This thing suddenly got clogged on me too. Perfect. Oh, the hole's too big, too small for that. Yeah, the Empress thing should have been one of the first things that hit me. It's kind of funny that it didn't. Sometimes my brain just wants, like, it wasn't quite ready for that yet. It's like it needs to hit me in the right order. It's one of the things I most regret about my entire childhood is telling my brain to put a lot of the stuff that was going on into a back file. Because like there's all kinds of stuff going on with my mind and I'm only half aware of what it's processing, and I get end results. It's one of the things that I probably shouldn't have done. I should be more aware, and I can't quite seem to change the momentum of that program. But it's also probably why I haven't hit autistic burnout yet. A lot of people I know my age, most of my autistic friends, most of my people in my, most of my friends in my neurodivergent niche that I know have hit that wall, and I haven't, thankfully, so far. But I also don't mask very well. I've always been, I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. Actually, we might actually. Well, we'll see what we're talking about Saturday. I haven't fully decided yet. I never have plugged the channel today, but don't forget, y'all can get a membership for 99 cents a month. Every 99 cents helps because right now I don't. This is the this my books and my readings and stuff, which since I haven't been pushing them a lot lately, not a lot of those coming in. Um. Anyways, until that open work visa comes through, this is my only means of income, really. Like we have the Airbnb stuff, which is part of the reason we're doing that is because I can't go get a job, which has been fun. We update y'all on that. It's been we've had two guests so far. Have another one coming soon. They both of them stayed one night. Only stayed one night. We got a 5-star review. The first one was here for a local yoga festival. I don't know what the second people were doing. I never even actually met them, but it's an Airbnb. That's what some people are. They just want to spend. They just want to spend the night. They're not all coming here to visit me. But if you go to the Airbnb on Gabriel, that's what we'll plug. We'll plug the Airbnb. Yeah, 100 and something bucks a night to stay in the extra room. Come visit me here in Gabriola, Canada. It's exactly the thing they tell you not to do on the internet, tell people where to find you. But I mean, we live on an island. There's only one ferry. We live on an island. There's one ferry in and out. So if you were coming here with nefarious intent, there's a good chance that I might be somebody hit me up and tell me before you even got here. But you'd never get off the island. You know, word spreads fast. Someone were to come here and do some kind of house invasion stuff, something crazy, they'd never make it off the island at the very least. So yeah, I live in Gabriola. Come visit me at my Airbnb. Oh, hey, thank you, like Unigriffin. That reminds me, I'm gonna start going live on Facebook on Fridays. Probably gonna be fairly random on Fridays, but I'm gonna start going live on Facebook on Fridays in the Sorcerer's Guild. Might wind up just being on my whole Facebook channel and then shared into the Sorcerer's Guild because that makes a lot more sense. But with there, I'm going to be going live with the intent of offering readings, cord cuttings, and that sort of thing on the live. And that'll be on Facebook itself. I'll have like a link to my link tree. People can pay me through there, but I feel more comfortable doing it there. We're gonna do that. I might start going on TikTok. I'm not on Twitch at all. I can go live on TikTok, but I'm not quite sure how all that works. We might, I don't know. I'm gonna start doing some more direct marketing, but I don't want to do that here so much. You know, I am willing to plug my channel here, talk about my books and stuff, but I don't want to just go live with the intent of okay, come on, somebody give me a reading, somebody pay me to do a reading. You know, it feels okay to do it in the guild because I have it on a specific day, and that's part of what the guild was for. Is to help people market their services. That's why it's a guild, right? And I'm actually we're expanding the market days for Friday from Friday. It used to only be Sunday. I'm after speaking to the other admins and getting everyone to agree because I care about democracy instead of just doing it on my you unilaterally deciding. Okay, well this is how it is. I checked with everybody, gave everyone a chance to object. Anyways, so Friday through Saturday is going to be the market days on the Sorcerers Guild from now on. I'm going to change that. I'm going to change that. Maybe if I remember, I'll go fix that in the rules tonight or tomorrow. But that's a kind of an important announcement. If anyone in here is in the Sorcerers Guild, changing the market days. I posted about it in there. I've given everyone in the admin staff and the group a chance to object. Nobody's objected. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Going live on there on Fridays. And yeah, um, I think that's going to be it for this episode. Unless anyone has any additional questions, don't forget to like the video if you haven't already. Every like helps. If any of you that have managed to stick, if any of you that have stuck around this long or haven't subscribed to the channel, please take the opportunity to do so now. We go live every Wednesday and Saturday. And I don't know what Saturday's live is going to be, but once again, we're reading the first chapter of the Never Ending Story. You can get a link from the Facebook group, which is linked. You can get a PDF at the Facebook group link that is featured in the chat. Okay. Yeah, that's going to be it for this episode. Bright blessings and an interesting fate. This has been Sorcerer Tao.